I used to believe that loyalty was a currency more valuable than any bank balance. I was wrong. When I started my company with Adil, it felt like the beginning of everything I had imagined: late-night brainstorms, cheap coffee turned into plans, and the reckless optimism of two friends convinced they could change the world. He brought charm and a silver tongue, I brought stubborn focus and the code that made our ideas work. We signed papers with shaky hands and louder promises. 50-50 together forever. I never thought together would be a one-sided word. Work became my life. I learned how to read clients before they spoke, how to calm a nervous investor with a well-timed slide, how to make a product behave at 3 a.m. I tracked metrics like a parent tracks a child's growth, with worry and pride. Adil smiled at meetings, took the stage when someone clapped, and kept the front of the show tidy. I was fine with that at first. We had roles. But roles start to feel like cages when the people around you start presenting other people's cages as their own trophies. The first sign of rot was small: a paused message, a meeting invitation I wasn't told about, a forwarded email with my name missing. I shrugged it off. The second sign was louder. I discovered a client proposal, one I had drafted, rewritten, and perfected, sitting in an investor's inbox with Adil's signature at the bottom and a cover note claiming the idea was his vision. My stomach turned into tight knots. I remember standing in the kitchen that night, the city noise thudding against my apartment window, and feeling a strange, cold focus settle over me. Betrayal is a sharp instrument, and it cuts clean when you don't scream. Confronting him would have been the obvious reaction. I could have exploded, accused him in front of the team, burned the bridges. But impulsive fire often gets doused. I wanted something else, not temporary satisfaction, but permanent correction. So I did what I had always done best. I planned. Quietly, methodically, and invisibly. First, I protected the work. Every document I touched got a breadcrumb footnote. Every design had metadata that would trace back to my machine. I quietly built an archive on an external server, encrypted, named with code words only I would understand. I began recording the small interactions that revealed intent. Voice notes where he took credit, Slack threads where he edited my drafts and rewrote credits, calendar invites shifted to erase my presence. I started copying every contract, every inverse, every version history. It took time. It took patience. It also gave me a strange peace. I worked the way I used to when I loved the craft, not for applause, but to make something unbreakable. At the same time, I cultivated allies, not loudly, but enough. I let my work speak louder than I did in the corridors. I delivered small, undeniable wins to senior people, metrics they could verify, client feedback they could read. I did not advertise my collection. I built authority so that when the moment came, my voice would find ears that had already listened to facts before. It's amazing how often people believe a smiling face because charisma is packaged as truth. So I prepared to bring facts that charisma could not obscure. Months passed like spent coins. Adil continued his comfortable performance. Handshakes, lunches with investors, carefully staged photos for social media. He assumed the narrative he painted would hold forever. In private, he would make jokes about that guy who codes all night. And I would smile because the opposite punishing smile would have given him notice. My collection grew. I had bank statements that didn't line up with company ledgers, client emails acknowledging my contributions, time-stamped commits from repositories, and a backup of the entire client demo that proved the product's functionality. I even managed to secure a recorded call where Adil casually explained to a potential partner that I was irreplaceable, a phrase that stung like acid and later tasted like evidence. Then the moment arrived. A platform I had hoped for and feared. A big launch party was scheduled, with investors flown in, media present, and a broadcast live stream. Adil had been boasting about this day for months. He planned to announce the new brand, claim sole leadership, and pitch for a significant round of funding. The company's future, in the short term, would hinge on a few polished slides and a live demo that would make or break faith. He expected roses. He expected me to be the smiling back figure in the photos. He expected nothing else. On the morning of the event, I walked into the venue calm in a way I hadn't felt in months. I carried with me two things: the polite face of a partner and the weight of a private hard drive containing proof. I sat in the audience as the lights dimmed and watched him take the stage, smooth and practiced. The opening applause rolled like a wave. He started his pitch with all the practiced lines, his supposed vision, his leadership, the language I had heard used on presentations we once rehearsed together. I watched his hand move across the wireless clicker. I knew the demo sequence by heart, the exact screen that should load the client dashboard, the expected animations, the sequence of API calls. I also knew how he had made the staging environment fragile deliberately. Perhaps a safeguard to ensure his own show could only be reproduced with his control. The demo script failed. At first, it was a small glitch, a spinner, a frozen chart. He smiled and blamed a network fluke. He clicked and clicked again. Sweat gathered at his temples. Cameras zoomed in. Investors shifted. In such rooms, confidence is currency. Once it cracks, trust drains away like water from a punctured vessel. He tried to improvise. His explanations slid into defensive territory. Panic smells like desperation. The audience sensed it. And then, with a calm that felt rehearsed and solitude more than in arrogance, I stood, not to accuse, not to shout, simply to demonstrate. If you'd like, I can run the same demo from our production build, EI said. That phrase, practiced so much in rehearsal, carried the weight of a double meaning. The room went still. He looked at me like a man who had been interrupted mid-theft. I plugged my laptop into the system and executed the exact same sequence. The client dashboard loaded flawlessly. Animations rendered. Logs confirmed the data flow. The difference was stark. A silent, undeniable contrast between his floundering stagecraft and my stable, functioning system. The investors leaned forward. I handed over a folder with timestamps, commit logs, authorized emails, and a signed trail of correspondence. The simplest things often convince more than the loudest claims. An email thread that showed my last-minute patch, server logs that mapped my IP to crucial deploys, signed NDAs with client testimonials acknowledging my contributions. The story had shifted for me, he says, to these records prove. What followed was a kind of corporate thunder. The board demanded an explanation. Legal teams started asking for copies. The press court whispers that turned into headlines. Adil's smile cracked into small, animal movements. He tried to talk his way out, to charm the room as he always had. Charm doesn't pay bills when confronted with code signatures and bank transfers. Within days, he was put on leave pending investigation. Within weeks, the legal decisions followed. He was removed. The man who had once cornered me in hallway jokes and dismissed my ambitions had his career collapse in a way both public and undeniable, and yet, even as the company did the necessary housekeeping, I felt no triumph in spectacle. My victory was quieter. A promotion that finally matched responsibility with title, equity that tied my name to the product I had birthed, and a reassessment of internal systems to ensure attribution and auditing. The company instituted stricter commit signing, transparent client assignment logs, and a clause for ownership recognition in partnership documents. People apologized, some genuinely, some with awkward glances indicating embarrassment more than remorse. Some walked away, others came back with cautious respect. The world continued, but a small rot had been surgically removed. There were costs. The months of quiet planning cost me afternoons with friends, family dinners, plans postponed. I sat with coffee at wrong hours and missed phone calls that could not be returned. Revenge taught me a different lesson than hatred. Strategy is time-consuming and quiet justice demands personal sacrifice, but the alternative, leaving a liar in power to build an empire on stolen labor, felt like a moral abdication I could not accept. People often ask me if I would do it differently, if I regret the path of evidence and patience instead of public confrontation. I tell them the same thing. There are battles you win in the street and battles you win in archives. My fight required verse, not volume. It required paper trails, server logs, and patient persistence. It required a willingness to let the truth accumulate until it could not be denied. The sweetest moment was not when he was escorted out, but months later when a junior engineer, nervous and early in their career, told me that because of our changes their work would always be traceable and that the company no longer rewarded style without substance. On nights when I look back, I don't see a movie villain or a hero with a cape. I see a person who learned to own a craft and then learned to protect it. I learned that silence is not always submission. Sometimes silence is a strategy that gathers facts until the right hour. If someone in your life tells you they can replace you, ask yourself whether they have the patience to build what you already made. If they don't, perhaps the only justice you need is a system that preserves truth. Build it, document it, and when the time is right, let the evidence speak. We are never defined only by the battles we win against others, but by how we rebuild after them. I rebuilt not to spite him, but to make a place where future builders would not have to fight the same quiet theft I did. That, in the end, felt like the most meaningful revenge of all.